Hey, y'all. I'm Rochelle, and if you've been here a while, you know that I am a tinkerer and I like to figure things out. And one of my new passions as of late is coding and figuring out how to build things using AI and tech. Now, if your LinkedIn is anything like mine or social media in general, you've heard of OpenClaw. And OpenClaw is like all the rage, right? But it came out in January. It became this big open source thing that people really hopped into and they got in. But there was a lot of security issues. There was a whole social media side about AI, talking to AI, and all these things. And it was quite the extravaganza, is what I would say. And when I, of course, wanted to hop on the train with everybody else, and I've gone through some iterations of what I've turned into my version of OpenClaw, which is not your typical version of OpenClaw. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to take you guys through kind of my journey of what I did with OpenClaw and the kind of my setup and what I have, what I built, and then I can show you or walk you through that journey and then do some supplemental videos showing you some use cases that I put together and how they work. Because I think the biggest thing with AI is actual use cases. So you can see what they are, how they work, and all the fun things. Now, again, remember, I'm just a tinkerer. I am no expert by any means. If you are wanting experts, if you're wanting experts to talk to experts, go to someone else who actually knows what the heck they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm literally just figuring it out. So if you are that type of personality as well, then hopefully you get along here. So let's talk about like what OpenClaw started out as. So it's an open source project on GitHub, which basically means that there's just a code available that anyone can download and they can put on their computer. Now, the idea with OpenClaw was that it was AI that actually does things for you, but naturally, AI is reactive. You give it a prompt, it responds. You give it an action, it does the action, and so it's very works on its or it works in reaction to you. But what the promise of OpenClaw was is that it proactively does things and it helps you out and does things seemingly on its own, is how it works. And so that was the initial draw to OpenClaw. It's like, oh, well, that sounds nice, right? Like a nice little virtual assistant that does things for me. That sounds great. But with that, you have to give it access and you have to give it really access to your computer. And so initially, there was a lot of struggles with what kind of access do you want to give it? Do you want to give it access to all of your emails? And then what if it just starts deleting emails? What are you going to do at that point? I don't know. Do you want to give it access to all your files? What if it just starts deleting all of your files? Do you want to give it access to your API keys and then suddenly all your API keys are all over the internet? No, not really. And so there's a lot of security issues that come with OpenClaw. And there are videos galore of how you can use like a virtual server, how you can lock it down, how you can do all these things. But when I first started to play with it, those weren't around yet. And I was worried. I was like, I want to give it access. Like, I even asked at work, like, is this something we can play with? And they were like, no, absolutely not. We're not touching anything near a work computer with this. And I was like, okay, fine, that's fair, whatever. So what I did initially is I put it on a virtual server. And my partner was able to give me access to a virtual server, and for a low cost. I was like, okay, let's try it. And I'm a Mac user. I love Macs. I transitioned to a Mac like I don't know, a decade ago. And now I got put on a Windows virtual server. Problem number one, I am not a Windows user, and Windows, sorry, you guys can suck it. I was awful. I hated it. It was not the place for me to be. But I set it up. Tried to use it. And honestly, the setup initially was really freaking cool. You download the code base, you open up a terminal on your computer, you start it. There's a gateway that opens, there's like a window that opens, just like you open localhost. You open it up, and it's like, who am I? What's my personality? I don't know. This is my first message. And I was sitting there with my partner, and I was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. Like this is really cool. And it was really cool. Like the way you were interacting with it, it was like this thing was being born and you were giving it this whole personality and everything. Like it was fascinating. It was really, really cool. And so of course I did my normal process. I went to ChatGPT. I kind of talked through like what would make the most sense for me. And what would you do? And so, of course, ChatGPT was like, well, you're a tinkerer. You like to put things together. You kind of put like multiple things together and kind of piece everything together. And you don't like to pay for things. You try to find workarounds and like all the things. And so we ended up coming up with Patch the Trash Panda, like Patch the raccoon. And so, like they scrounge around, they do all that stuff. And I was like, oh, I like that. That's cool. And so it gave me kind of a personality for Patch the Trash Panda. So of course, when OpenClaw opened, I told Patch who he was, what he was going to do, and how he was going to help my life and all this stuff. And he was like, "Great, I love this. This is awesome. Like, what are my pronouns? What are your pronouns? Tell me about you," and all this stuff. And it was really freaking cool. Like, it was awesome. It was really cool. And it was one of those moments of like, I feel like I'm living in the future. Like I just went into Back to the Future and I'm Marty and I just went Back to the Future, right? Which is weird because I don't do movie references, but I just gave you one. Anyways, it was fascinating. And then I spent the whole weekend, I was putting this whole thing together. I had all these ideas about managing my grocery list and my meal planning. And I don't even remember what I all put together, but I had all these ideas and I put them all together. And it was burning through tokens. Now, when I say burning through tokens, I mean I probably spent $150 that weekend just asking Patch to do all of this stuff and set up all these things because essentially you have your agent and then you have your agent has jobs and they have skills or they have tools available to them to access those jobs and do things. And then they execute those things. And so I was trying to get Patch to do all this stuff. And so we were brainstorming, we were chatting back and forth in Discord, and I'd be like, yeah, plan for this overnight and go do this. And then I wake up in the morning and nothing was done. And I was like, Patch, what happened? Like, you're gonna do this. Oh, yeah, I was gonna do that. I forgot. Sorry. And I was like, the fuck, man? Like, you were supposed to do this. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm just not setting this up right. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. And I kept kind of iterating on it and I kept like building out more tasks and I just kept layering it on. Like, of course, like if I give it more, it'll work, right? Like it'll do all this stuff, it'll work. And I just kept going and I kept going and kept going. And it was not working and not working. It wasn't executing on anything. It wasn't building. And this was probably early February at this point. And so it just wasn't working really well. And it was expensive. Like the token costs were just adding up and adding up and adding up. And I was like, "Holy cow. Like what is going on? Like this is crazy." So I was like, "This isn't worth it. Like I'm not getting the benefit out of this." So I started joining some social media groups and seeing what people are doing and people are talking about buying a Mac Mini. And they're like, on a Mac Mini, you can isolate it. It gets me back on a Mac. Huge win because screw Windows. But I then you could run local models. If you buy one of the higher powered ones, you could run local LLMs, and then you don't have a cost. And right then, API costs were so high that I was like, okay, great. Like this will be perfect. I'll do this. I'll just switch to local models for as much as I can, and then fall back to the LLMs if I need to. So round two. Round two, I get a Mac Mini and I get one of the higher power Mac Minis and I try to run local models. Oh my God. And round two does not go very well either. One, I'm back on a Mac Mini, which is great because I'm in a Mac. But I am still running into what context issues. Like I have to break down my test so much. It's very, very slow to respond. And it was responding in like Thai, so foreign languages. And I just could not get it to work. And this very well may have been a user error. 100% may have been me. And I may have not been set up very well to run OpenClaw. But it got me into where I was basically just wasting. I was wasting time, I was wasting energy, I was getting frustrated, and I was like, so many people are having such success with this. What am I doing wrong? Like, come on. Like there's got to be something that I'm doing differently. So, of course, I went to Handy Dandy Cursor because Cursor is my favorite and I love Cursor. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, can you look at the open source OpenClaw and let's talk it out because I'm breaking down everything so small into pieces. And like at this point, what's the point of it? Like, I might as well, because I'm trying to restrict what it has access to for security, like I'm trying to protect myself because that was a big deal to me. And because I am trying to run local miles to save on cost, and that's not really working, is there even any point of OpenClaw anymore? Like, what's really the point? And I talked through Cursor with it, and I was like, well, the way you're really designing this, and because of the security that you have in mind, there really isn't a point of OpenClaw for you. You could design this just in a database. Really, what you're wanting is just agentic agents to help run your life, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's basically what I'm wanting. And so it goes, okay, well, let's design it. Just like you design Remember Links, Inbox Echo, Inklings, let's design an app. Like, why not? And I was like, okay, well, I'm already doing this, so let's round three. Third time's the charm. Let's try it out. And again, I did this because I had a security mindset. I was trying to reduce cost. And I was already down a bunch of rabbit holes, and why not just keep going down the rabbit holes? Okay. Is this the best way to do it? Probably not. But this is the way I did it, and this is the way I set it up. So I'm going to kind of show you what I broke down. So what I have is traditional OpenClaw has everything in like text markdown files in a file folder in on just your hard drive. And it's just text files. I put it into a database and I just organized it into a database. Now, one of the key things or the key structure of OpenClaw is you have a gateway. You have a way to communicate with it. Most people are communicating through Discord, Telegram, iMessage, so it's something really easy. I like Discord, so I set up Discord. So Discord is how I interact with my agents. So that's my gateway. Then it has recurring jobs or actions that it can take. And those actions have a heartbeat. And the heartbeat is essentially what's a cron job. And a cron job is just, hey, at this time, go take this action. That's it. This time, take this action. So, what essentially a heartbeat in OpenClaw is just go look to see if anything needs done. Now go check to see if anything needs done. And it just looks, does anything need done? So I mirrored that in my database. I don't have OpenClaw, but I mirrored that process. Then each agent has access to tools. So it has, here's a job I need to accomplish, and here's tools that I need to do those jobs. And my tools that I have available to me are based on access to different systems. They're based on LLM calls to accomplish those tasks, etc. And the tools a lot of times in OpenClaw, people download skills, which is basically like a package of tools. And those skills, what you're seeing online is people have skills, like 80% of the skills that are out there right now have malware in them because they're open source. And so if you don't know how to read code, if you don't know how to interpret those, unless you're building custom skills, you could infect your computer, you could infect all your files, everything. And that was a risk I wasn't willing to take. And so I always wanted to look at the skill, look at the concept of the skill, but I wanted to build my own, which is why mine weren't working when I was using just straight OpenClaw. But what I did is I just took the concept and I built my own skills through edge functions. Edge functions are just a set of things that need to happen. And so I have my gateway. My gateway is Discord. It's how I communicate with my agents. And then you have recurring tasks. And those tasks are triggered by a heartbeat or by a check. Does something need to be done? And then the last piece of it is the agentic side. And the agentic side is self-improvement. Can your agent self-improve or learn over time? And so what I did is I set up a human in the loop version of self-improvement because again, I'm a control freak. So my agents, if they are not performing well based on feedback from me, they can propose changes to improve themselves and I can improve it. And then they can improve either their prompts, their tools available, or I can build out things that they might need. So there's a gateway, there's instructions, and then there is the agentic side of things. So that's what I built out. Now, let's talk there. Let's show you kind of what I built and how I built that. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So we're going to start out and we're going to look at my Discord first. My Discord is going to be where I interact with my agents. So what you can tell, I have a Discord channel here, which is OpenClaw Takeover. And then I have different channels here. So I have general, I have swordtail, I have my political debate, I have money, I have my food channel, etc. Okay, I got lots of different things here. Now, when this is how I interact with my bot. Now, you'll see I've structured mine a little bit differently. I don't have just one bot. I have different personalities in mine. So I have household things here. So household things is like managing like my habits, like my daily tasks, weekly tasks, things like that. I have managing my meal planning, my grocery list, what we ate, my finances, all of those are examples there. And Kate is my bot for that. So Kate is my agent here. And the way I did this is I just made my actual bot that responds in Discord is just kind of this gray thing, so it doesn't look like it's a thing. But then I gave it a Kate emoji, and it's actually Pam from Smart House. If you remember the Disney movie from when we were younger, if you are my age. So I gave her the personality of Pam from Smart House. And so it always says Kate says, so I know which agent I'm talking to. And this is kind of how I've modified this, right? Instead of spawning sub agents, it's always technically the same agent or the same bot that's responding in Discord. I just gave it a personality so it looks different on my side. Then I have Scout. So Scout here, he doesn't talk much in here anymore because I kind of changed it. But Scout is where is my marketing expert. And obviously I'm still working through all this. This is all tinkering. So, Scout, I gave him Raymond Reddington. I don't know why he was given Raymond Reddington vibes, but it was. So I gave him Raymond Reddington as his little icon there. And it always says Scout says. And then in my general, I have Patch. Patch is my main dude. He is my trash panda that helps me out. So that is Patch. And then I also have Swordtail. Swordtail is my son's AI and working with that. So, a couple of different things there. I also have like a political debate, and I'll show you how that one works and how that we run through that one. But a couple different things. Now, this is how I interact is through our through Discord and how I interact with the bot. Now I have a Supabase table or Supabase organization or however it's set up with subtables. When in here, I have all my different agents. So I have an agents table. So these are all my different agents. And these are kind of we have their slug, we have their display name, what channel they talk to me in. This is their Discord emoji of what they have to, the little thing that it says, and then the prefix of what it says. Then I give it its personality. So this is its prompt. Okay, this is who they are and how they work. So what you can, this is how I tell them who they are. So when I first like logged into OpenClaw and it was like, who am I? This is this prompt. This is who they are and what they do. This is their AI model that they run. Okay, this is what they use to navigate the majority of their tasks when it comes to completing regular tasks. And I can change this. They can actually optimize this as well. I always have authorization secrets in here. So what there's different secrets to access different things. So I wanted to add layers of security in here. And then I also have interactive models in here. So when I chat back and forth with them, I want them to have a higher level of cognition than just like completing tasks. So I separate those two out. And same thing of interactive prompts. It's a little bit different. They have daily budgets that they have to stay under and they have to optimize, which is really helpful. I really like basically outline all of this in agents. Now, the agents are going to have cron jobs. Now, with the Supabase table, the way it is this is on the free version. Because remember, I'm cheap. I don't want to spend any money on this. And so I have one cron job. And the cron job could be from like cronjob.org, which is free, but donate to them though if they're running a lot, so they're really nice. But I actually have it through one of my paid Supabase projects. Is I have one cron job that triggers this one every single time, and it runs every 5 minutes, and that's my heartbeat. So I have one cron job that triggers all of these. Now, and the cron jobs, you can see I have 75 cron jobs in here. And the cron jobs are either going to be recurring or they are going to be one-off. So what the cron jobs, that these are not like official cron jobs. They are not official. It's really just a row in a database. But what I did is my heartbeat, remember that one cron job, is going to trigger a lookup on this cron job table, and it's going to see, does anything need to run right now? And if anything needs to run right now, it's going to trigger it to run. So it's like a tree. I recreated that heartbeat function from OpenClaw where it goes, you have your heartbeat and it goes, does anything need to be run right now? And my agents, they have ongoing tasks, like scheduled tasks they need to do every day or week or month or whatever I set. And then they can create one-off tasks for themselves. And that one-off task, when it's completed, it's just done. It never does it again. But that heartbeat triggers it to run, and then it runs that task. So this task is like, okay, here's what you need to do, and this is what it needs to do. And these are the instructions that it needs to follow. And it has tools available to complete these tasks. The tools could be edge functions, it could be like a browser search, it could be using like Reddit, it could be just a database lookup. It really is up to whatever that tool is, but it depends on kind of the structure. But it is that the agents have their cron jobs. And then these are the different tools that I have set up. And the different tools that are available. You can see there's 118 tools. So lots of different tools available set up for the different agents and how they are going to use the information. Now, I don't know all this, right? I don't know how to code. I don't know how to do all of this. And so what this is actually all ran by Cursor. Cursor is doing all of this. I'm telling Cursor, hey, I would like Kate to do this. What do we need to do based on how OpenClaw is set up? And it sets up all of this for me, which is pretty great. And so it's going to run based on that. Then So that's kind of the really high level. You have your agents, you have their cron jobs, you have their tools available to you. And in outside the tools, I also have edge functions. So I have lots of edge functions for completing those tasks. So lots of different things. So I have logs and tracking. Now, how do I interact with it? Because I really don't spend a lot of time in the database. That's just where things are tracked. I play in Discord, so I talk back and forth in Discord. But then on my website, so this is my personal website, this is my portfolio. And like I have all of the different like public facing portfolio, but then I also have my dashboard. And this is my back end, but I have this locked down. And my dashboard here is going to be all the different things that my agents do for me. And so what it is going to basically organize all of my agents. It's going to basically gives me a visual of my databases so I can interact with it, which is great. Excuse me. Key things is on my OpenClaw. You can see I have my spend. It has my daily spend in there. It has my events in there of what's going on. I can go into each agent. So I can look at Kate. I can see what she's been doing. I can see kind of the output on each one. So that I can look here. I also have a leaderboard so I can see how good each agent is doing and how they're doing it. I can also look at all the different jobs. Oops, too fast. I can see all the different cron jobs in a nice little view of what's running throughout the day. And I can see like on the proposals, this is how they improve themselves. So this is the agent improvement that we were talking about, or that agentic side of things. So really with this kind of overview is I tried in a virtual machine, couldn't get it to work. I was like designing skills and nothing was happening. It just wasn't actually executing on anything. And super frustrated, burning through tokens. Tried to run local models, couldn't get that to work either. I was breaking things down into so simple of tasks to run local models with limited context that I couldn't get that to work either. And I was like, if I'm already breaking it down so much, why am I not just designing my own agents that have more security and I can really hone in on what they're doing and how they're doing it? And so that's what I did. And so I returned that Mac Mini, and version 3 is what I ran into here. I still interact with it via Discord. And then I also have my UI where I can see everything it's doing. All the data is stored in a database. And the only thing that I'm paying for now is API costs. But the agents are trained to optimize their API costs so that I am not constantly paying out to the wazoo. You can tell my spending is really, really cheap now. And it's actually accomplishing tasks because I'm using LLMs when it makes sense. I'm not using LLMs when it doesn't make sense. So if it's just a database lookup, if it's just a look at previous history of my transactions for my spend, and then auto categorizing based on that transaction history, I don't need an LLM call for that. There's no reason for it. And so, great, it just does it automatically and it costs zero. And so what it really comes down to identifying when do you need an LLM and when do you not? How can you optimize for that? And how can you also protect all of your data, thinking of security? Because you don't need to give it a ton of access if it doesn't need it. So, like, it has access to my calendar, so it can know when my son is home for my custody schedule, and planning meals for that. But it doesn't need write access to that. I don't need that. That's not one of my use cases. But that's okay. And but I can structure that. And I can use a tool like Cursor to help me navigate how do I set that up? How do I give it that access just through basic coding? It doesn't need to have all the crazy access that OpenClaw calls for. So that's what I've set up. I hope that was helpful in kind of navigating how it's set up. Now I'll kind of do a deep dive into each section, and how each of those work. So hopefully that's a bit easier for you to understand because it can get kind of complicated. So, but that's the overview.